Hi, my name is Lisa Speransky, and I'm the founder of Ivy Tutors Network. Although many schools did go test optional, and you've probably heard this, the trend is sort of reversing. It's safe to say that if you're applying to any competitive college or university, you definitely want to submit an SAT or ACT score. Although test scores are by no means the most important part of an application, they still provide the admissions committee with objective evidence. What you want to figure out is which test are you naturally going to score higher on baseline-wise, and then you're going to want to study for that test because you're going to have less studying to do when you start with the higher score. If timed tests have historically been an issue for you, then maybe the SAT is a better choice. The ACT has also more advanced math than the SAT, but the questions tend to be more straightforward. One thing that scares people away from the ACT is the science section. And the SAT just doesn't have a science section. The science section does not require you to know scientific content, right? So if you haven't done physics yet, you're not going to do poorly on the ACT for that reason. But what it asks is for you to analyze and draw conclusions from data. So you're going to see a lot of graphs and things like that. If you're a strong reader, you can do well on the science section. The SAT will switch to an exclusively digital test. The exam is shorter. The digital SAT is 2 and 15 minutes and contains 98 questions. The reading passages are shorter. The digital SAT contains 54 short passages and 1 question per passage. Students are allowed to use a calculator on the entire math section, which wasn't the case before. The most significant change is that the new digital SAT will also be adaptive. Both the SAT reading and writing and math sections will be divided into 2 equal modules. The first module contains a mix of easy, medium, and hard questions. When time runs out on the first module, students are automatically moved to the second module, but the questions on the second module will either be easier or harder depending on how students performed on the first one. For instance, if a student does well on the first module, they will get harder questions on the second. For students to earn a top score, they'll need to make sure they get enough easy questions right so they get to the harder ones. It's knowing the content really well, knowing the strategy for that particular test, and then lots and lots of practice. I would say these are a third, a third, a third. Since the pandemic and with all the learning loss and learning gaps we've seen, students take longer to get that content down. Next comes the strategy. So sometimes a student will be incredibly advanced in math. So for example, they're taking calculus, but they still don't get 100% of the questions right on the SAT and ACT. Why is that? Well, it's because they haven't done the strategy portion. So strategy could mean learning to do less math to get the right answer. And then the third thing is practice. So you've learned some new content potentially, you've learned a lot of new strategies, and it takes time to really solidify and get good at them. And that's the last third.